In today's lesson, we will continue solving inequalities, but we're jumping from one step all the way to multi-step inequalities because we basically follow the same steps as equations. You first look to see if you can distribute, and then combine like terms on separate sides of that equal sign. Move your variables to one side, undo addition and subtraction, undo multiplication and division. The only difference is this step at the end. You always have to look to see if you have to switch the sign, and you do that if you multiply or divide by a negative. Here's our first example. Negative 3 times x plus 4 minus 2 is greater than 7. So we first look to see, can we distribute? And in this case we can because we have parentheses. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, and then minus 2 greater than 7. After you distribute, look to see if you have any like terms you can combine. And here I have negative 12 minus 2. So I now have negative 3x minus 14 is greater than 7. Now add 14 to both sides. Here they cancel, leaving us with negative 3x is greater than 7 plus 14 is 21. And then last step, divide by a negative 3. Divide by a negative 3, cross out. So x, I divided by a negative, so I have to flip the sign. So x is less than 21 divided by negative 3 is negative 7. Here's our second example. First step, look to see if we can distribute. We don't have any parentheses, so there's nothing to distribute. Any like terms to combine on separate sides, 3x plus 7 can't combine, and 5x plus 9 we can't combine. So all the way to step 3, we have variables on separate sides. So let's get the variable to one side. And inequalities, I usually just always bring to the left, because we always want our variable on the left. So negative 5x, negative 5x leaves us with negative 2x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 9. And now subtract 7, cancels out here, and we have negative 2x is greater than or equal to a positive 2. Last step, divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. Because I divided by a negative, I have x is now, switch the sign, less than or equal to a negative 1. Alright, now we're ready for a more challenging one. We have parentheses on both sides, and we have variables on both sides. So first, let's start with distributing. Here we have this subtraction sign that we have to distribute. It's as if you're distributing a negative 1. So on the left side, I have 17 minus 4k plus 2 is greater than or equal to 2k plus 6. After you distribute, look to see if you have any like terms you can combine. And in this case, I have 17 plus 2. So if I rewrite this, negative 4k, and then 17 plus 2 plus 19 is greater than or equal to 2k plus 6. Now, let's get our variable onto one side of the inequality. So I'm going to subtract 2k And negative 4k minus 2k is negative 6k, plus 19 is greater than or equal to 6. Next step, subtract 19. So negative 6k is greater than or equal to negative 13. And then last step, divide both sides by negative 6. Divided by a negative once again. So I'm left with k is now less than or equal to, here we have a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and a positive 13/6, which we could also rewrite it as k is less than or equal to 2 1/6. Alright, let's do one more example together, and then you can try 2 on your own. So, we have 4/3 x minus 3 is less than x plus 2/3 minus 1/3 x. First, look to distribute, but there's nothing. Then you have to look to see if you can combine any like terms that are on the same side of the inequality. And here we have x minus 1/3 x. So 1x minus 1/3 x is 2/3 x, and then we have this second 2/3, and then the other side we still have 4/3 x minus 3. Now let's get our variables onto one side. So let's move 2/3 x to the left. I'm going to subtract 2/3 x on both sides. Four-thirds minus 2/3 is just 2/3, so 2/3 x minus 3 is less than 2/3. Now I need to add 3 to both sides. So 2/3 x is less than, let's look here, 3 2/3 we can just rewrite as an improper fraction. So 3 times 3 is 9, 10, 11, 11/3. So 2/3 x is less than 11/3. And now I need to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 3/2. Multiply by 3/2. This time I don't flip the sign because I didn't multiply by a negative. So x is less than, my 3's cancel, so x is less than 11/2, or x is less than 5.5. Here are 2 last examples I want you to try on your own. So write them down and pause the video and then check your answer. 1, we have 5x plus 4 times the quantity x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 2 plus 5 times the quantity 2 plus x. You should get that x is greater than or equal to 4. In the second example, 2 plus 2/3 x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 9. You should get that x is greater than or equal to 3. Now, don't forget that when we have inequalities, just like equations, you can check your solution. Whatever you get, plug it back in for your variable to check that it works. So, there's the full lesson on multi-step inequalities. Good luck!